and then it goes into the urethra. All right, here goes another ureter coming in here. Excuse me. And then this is the same dog. So this one is a normal one. You see how thin that is? And then you see the ureter here. So you're really just looking and comparing, Tony. Okay? So when you're looking at these guys, you should be able to visualize both the left and the right. All right? And what you're looking at is how dilated they are. Remember, these should be nice, thin, little lines. You shouldn't really see a whole lot of convolution to them or twisting and turning. Okay? And then you want to be aware of where they're entering. So you see this one is starting to enter with the urethra. And then this one is just kind of coming in a little bit where it's supposed to be. Same thing here. See, it's coming in and it's going down towards where the urethra is. So remember, when we're looking at the normal, we should see them kind of hit right there, right before the pelvic inlet. Right before we get to that complete tapering where that urethra would be exiting. Everybody got that? Okay. So, when we talk about loss of serosal detail, we're not just only talking about the detail of the peritoneum. We want to look at the detail of the retroperitoneum. Okay? So when we see a large opacity, especially that filled with contrast material, and we're seeing everything in the abdomen be displaced ventrally, okay, then we're more than likely dealing with something in the retroperitoneum. So on this particular picture, we have a homogeneous soft tissue opacity, okay? We can't really visualize the kidneys, and you're seeing a displacement of the colon. Let me follow the colon for you. So let's kind of orient ourselves. Here goes the stomach being pushed or displaced cranially. Here goes the colon, or part of the transverse colon. And you can kind of follow that as it comes up around, kind of like, it does like some little dip. Sorry, I gotta always go from the back. But it kind of comes like this and dips up and around. And then you have all the intestines jumbled here. All right, everybody see that? Okay. So, primary differential, when you see a mass effect causing everything in the abdomen to go ventral, think of something in the retroperitoneum. Okay? Those are going to be things like renomegaly, or if we have, like this one that was confirmed by contrast, a rupture of the proximal ureter. So now we have fluid, free fluid in the retroperitoneum that's now causing that displacement. Okay? Yes, sir?
So in this picture, the arrows are the ventral border of that mass opacity thing?
Yeah, so you kind of, so all of this is that generalized opacity. So this is some fat that you kind of see around, fat here. You follow this colon and it kind of comes up like this. Yes, ma'am?
I missed the rupture. Do we see the actual rupture?
No, we don't see the actual rupture. That's part of your differential.
Okay.
Did we get a game point?
Woo!
I'm collecting points. You about to die?
That's so scary. That's so scary.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
it's okay?
No, he's crashed. Continue.
Okay. Sorry. It was warning us. All right. So this is a ureter rupture closer to the distal aspect of it, or as it goes, gets nearer to the bladder. And you see where you have that normal feeling in the proximal ureter. So you kind of follow from here. And then you get this kind of indistinct area of contrast material. All right? So one of these guys has ruptured, and the other one is able to fill. All right, everybody see that? So that's a cleaner version. But when you're up closer to the kidney and the proximal aspect, you get that mass effect. So Drew, that's why you didn't really see it on that one. It kind of looked like, is it a big kidney, or is there a bunch of fluid kind of hanging out up there? Yes, sir.
Are you able to tell if you take the opposite lateral, if it's one side versus the other, or is that too?
Well, you'll take the VD. Yeah, so it would just take the VD. And then we know that there is one side and versus the other, we just don't know which one, so the VD will help us locate that. Okay? Cystitis. All right, so we talked about cystitis. We're gonna start talking about what we see when we're looking at the urinary bladder wall. So now we've moved out of the retroperitoneum, now we're back into the peritoneal cavity with the bladder. All right? So in that upper corner, you see this is a double contrast cystogram. All right? What is being used is a diluted iodinated contrast and gas or air. A lot of times we just use an air filled, suck up some air into the syringe and carefully put it in. There are other facilities that use special gas because it's safer if it gets into the bloodstream. All right? But just know that there are a cystogram, positive and negative, and then there's a double contrast cystogram, which uses both positive and negative. That's what you're visualizing in that normal image in the corner. But when you have an abnormal cystogram, of what we're visualizing with the red arrow, and you see the filling defects, okay? Remember, filling defects, we should see this contrast material hits nice and smoothly along those luminal surfaces, but we have some irregularity going on here. We have a rough, irregular mucosal margin. Okay? Everybody see that? And so with that cranioventral distribution, or the apical part of the bladder, we've commonly seen this associated with cystitis. Okay? Now one might ask, well, Dr. Carter, if it's cystitis, isn't the whole bladder wall going to be thickened? Absolutely. But we see most of the irregularity in that cranioventral aspect. This is just pattern recognition. This is what's been overrepresented in several cases over the years and years that radiology has been around. All right? So what you're seeing down below is just that. Okay? We have a double contrast cystogram that allows us to see where the margins of the bladder are. And what you're seeing, you see this opaque area? That's the actual bladder wall. Can everybody see that okay? Let me see if I can blow that up. Hopefully I don't destroy it. Alright, it's kind of pixelated. But you guys see this area from here to here? That's the actual bladder wall. And because of this view, so right here, you don't really see that same thickening. It doesn't keep that same energy there. But you see it kind of get the thickening here. So that's why we look along that apical region. All right? Everybody got that? So when we talk about cystitis and we have cranioventral thickening or roughened mucosal margins on a double cystogram or a double contrast cystogram, or even on a positive cystogram, or primary differential cystitis. Gary left me with 1,000,001 slides to get through with that. All right, so when we look at diffuse thickening, yes ma'am.
How does the opacity inside the radiation feel on that?
Because so when we're doing, fine. When we're doing these double contrast cystograms, remember these dogs are laying on their side. So the contrast is going to pool and the air is going to surround it. Okay? Here we go, we have diffuse thickening. This is going to be interstitial cystitis. This is a common occurrence with cats. Can you guys think of any cat problem that you might possibly see this with more often than not? Yes! So, this is going to be one of those chronic situations, and this is what you feel when you feel that firm bladder that's hard to express. A lot of times they have this interstitial cystitis. This is what keeps us on our toes when we're palpating and trying not to overflush the bladder, because the more chronic or more severe this is, the more friable or sensitive or fragile this bladder wall is, okay? But as you can see with this baby, you have thickening all the way around. Can everybody appreciate that? Okay. Beautiful baby footage. All right. Have you guys heard of emphysematous cystitis? Big word. All right. So when we talk about emphysematous cystitis, this is one of those complications that can occur with diabetes. Okay? I said it like that so you guys can wake up and hear me. So diabetes mellitus is one of these situations. Can anybody think of why? What usually happens with dogs with diabetes? What are they usually getting? Bacterial infections, yes. And what kind of bacteria are they usually getting? Anaerobic. Okay. So what we're getting, what is it, anaerobic? Something like that, yes, okay. But I had to think about it. Y'all gonna teach me too. All right, so what happens is they get these infections, it gets into the bladder wall, and we're starting to get gas, all right? Because we've changed the pH, we've changed that environment of the urine and the bladder, and so now this is one of those common associations with diabetes mellitus, all right? So now you guys know a little bit more. So when you guys get to talk about endocrine, you guys know this part, right? Not often do you see this, but if you do, and it's a dog that maybe is undiagnosed, or they're having problems controlling it, you kind of know why. Okay? Cool? And so this just kind of outlines that gas in the bladder wall. All right? You see the outer part of the wall and the luminal part? Ooh, and it's all the way around. And it gets to the neck. It's actually quite fascinating. It sucks for the animal, but it's fascinating to see. All right. Dun, dun, dun. So, we always want to jump to TCC. But our radiographic assessment is going to be urinary bladder neoplasia, such as transitional cell carcinoma. Why? Because that is the most common mass, or neoplasia, rather, of the urinary bladder, blah, 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 blah. Okay? I just said a lot and I kind of dribbled on my lips, okay? So, when you guys see this filling defect, right? So what we're doing is a retrograde urethrogram. So what they've placed is a catheter into this dog's urethra, injected the contrast, and so you see his urethra going over and in, and then now we're just having this filling. So there's something going on at the mass, at the trigon area that's not is interrupting or interfering with the bladder's ability to receive this contrast material. Again, this is a filling defect, a lucency surrounded by radial opacity. All right, so we would say this is a mass at the trigon region or a mass at the neck of the bladder. Okay, urinary bladder neoplasia such as transitional cell carcinoma. So when we see thickening at the neck of the bladder or irregularity, now we talk about neoplasia. Okay? See how those key words start taking a place on us and changing up our differentials? Okay. All right, so this is another baby that's having a filling defect in the bladder. Okay? And she also has a pelvic urinary bladder. So she's had, I guess, some years of living with this pelvic bladder. Okay, and pelvic urinary bladder is just what it's describing. The bladder is sliding into the pelvic canal. So you're having that urinary incontinence because as soon as that baby fills up just a little bit too much, she's gonna urinate. All right, so what they did is this contrast study, and They see the irregularity, you got a filling defect here on the ventral aspect. And then you have the neck of the bladder hanging out in the pelvis. Everybody appreciate that? Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit more about urinary, pelvic urinary bladder. So this is just another one with transitional cell. Again, that's the most common one. We always want to be inclined to just call it out. But remember, when it comes to radiographs, we can't be that specific. Because what if it's the rare instance that it's not transitional cell carcinoma and it's something else causing a mass, right? Then we cause this pet parent to go into a frenzy, even though we know that it's commonly that. But we can't say that radiographically until we get definitive diagnosis. Okay? So that's just another example. So ruptured urinary bladder. Okay, we got a couple more before I get to the pelvic bladder. What time is it? 10:44, perfect. All right. Ruptured urinary bladder. A lot of times, everybody familiar with the AFAS. One of the points on the AFAS is in the caudal abdomen. Okay? It's going to be, that's one of those areas that we look for free abdominal fluid because we're worried about ural abdomen. All right? But how else can we have a ural abdomen? What else can be ruptured? And we just talked about it. Ureters. Perfect. So, not only do we look for the bladder to have some interrupted in its bladder wall, we want to make sure that the ureters are intact as well. Okay? So your best study to do is going to be an IVP. Okay? Because you're getting the ureters, outlined or filled by the contrast material so that you can evaluate their integrity, and you're getting a cystogram. Okay? So if you had to pick between a contrast study, if that was what you had available in your clinic, then you're going to do an IVP, because that's going to give you the most information on what could possibly cause ural abdomen. Everybody understand that concept? Okay. Now, if we do a positive contrast cystogram, that's probably because, as you guys can see, this one, they took the catheter in too far and went right through the bladder wall. Okay? So what you're seeing right here is that catheter, and it kind of ruptured this area here, so now you're getting kind of leakage of that material. So that's another thing when we're worried about the type of catheters we're using. And when you feel that pressure, don't force it all the way. Right? Have you guys heard that when you're in the clinic? Or when you were in your summers? Try not to force, especially in that Tomcat. All right? So this is another ruptured urinary bladder. You got leakage around. And that's just kind of demolished. I don't know what happened to that bladder. I don't think it was there to begin with. So you see his catheter coming through and around, and then somewhere in here is some bladder tissue. But all the way around here is some leaking material. All right. Patent urachus. You guys remember this from our journal? All right. So pretty much same, similar concept. You have a communication from the urinary bladder. And when you do a contrast study, you're going to see these little tubular areas that are filling. All right? And that's what's outlined by the blue arrows. Okay. Youngsters, typically. And that's what we see. Any questions on that one? Mm-hmm. And you kind of see it coming down. And so it's going to probably have some pooling right here in that umbilicus area. In the umbilicus, sorry. Yes. Sorry, honey. I'm looking at this and I'm showing you. And I'm like, wait, no. Okay, but yes, that's why I said the pooling in that umbilicus area. Okay? All right, types of capilli. The radiolucent ones that we're not going to see on plain survey film are CU, cystine and urates. I can't see you. All right, the radial opaque ones that we'll typically see on plain survey radiographs are going to be the struvites and the oxalates. All right, the most common one that we're seeing are which ones? The struvites, yes. All right, so that's commonly what you're seeing when you get these patients that come in and you see those calculi. We're not seeing stones. Dr. Perry's going to tell you you didn't get a stone from outside, you put it in the dog, you got calculi. All right, so I can't see you. That's what we used to use in school, because you can't see those on survey films. Now, when we put contrast in there, you're going to see everybody. So they're going to be all filling defects. We just don't know which ones are which yet. All right? So, this is urinary bladder with some calculi, most likely some struvites. They're so pretty. And then there's some little ones that are hanging out in his urethra. Oh, baby. All right? So, on the male dog, we got a couple of places that are going to cause obstruction. The prosthetic urethra. Okay, as we go over the ischium, that little curve. And then right as we hit the os penis. Okay, so same concept when you're talking about GI foreign bodies, where it narrows. It's going to be a similar concept when you're talking about the dog, the male dog and his urethra obstructions. Okay. Alright, so these arrows are just to point out, these are not calculi. These are actually some sutures